We tweak Fox Noise here every once in a 10-minute span, but at least we can count on one of those real journalists the network claims are so different from its opinion people to produce a hard-hitting interview. Our number one story in the countdown, Chris Wallace takes on Orly Tate's Limbaugh, who, frankly, must have faced tougher questions from one of those doctors he used to shop. The smooch fest was evident from the beginning. In Wallace's first question, the inclusion of one word might have tipped us off.
This week, it will be 1 year since Barack Obama was elected president. In that time, what has he done for and to the country? To the country. No better way for Wallace to set himself up as the eager enabler to Mr. Limbaugh.
I think it's all two. I don't think there's any four. Chris, I'm really worried. We've never seen this kind of radical leadership at such a high level of power in the country. I believe that the economy is under siege, is being destroyed, and I have to think that it may be on purpose, because this is just outrageous what is happening, a denial of liberty, an attack on freedom.
Wow, Orly Tate, that was almost worthy of Michelle Bachmann. But a man admits to a blatant political agenda off which he makes tens of millions of dollars annually and then accuses the President of the United States of not just harming the country, but doing so deliberately. And the follow-up is another softball about, there was 3.5% growth in the third quarter. But Limbaugh did offer some original material, again prompted by Mr. Wallace.
You have now taken to calling Mr. Obama the man-child president.
Right.
What does that mean?
Just he's immature. He's a child. I think he's got a 5-minute career. He was in the Senate for 150 days. He was a community organizer in Chicago for however number of years. He really has no experience running anything. He's very young. I think he's got an out-of-this-world ego. I think he's very narcissistic. And he's able to focus all attention on him all the time. That description is simply a way to cut through the noise and say he's immature, inexperienced, in over his head.
And this is the expert in that field. Later, when Wallace throws Limbaugh another softball, this one about Afghanistan, Limbaugh starts in on his Obama doesn't care about the troops canard. Mr. Wallace reserves some of his biggest pushback for that nonsense. Listen carefully. You might just hear Wallace say, "Come on."
You suggest that he is taking all of this time to decide what to do in Afghanistan to keep his left-wing base on board for health care reform.
Well, it's partly that, but I also don't think he cares much about it. I think once...
Oh, come on.
No, see, this is...
Ooh, Mr. Wallace will be thrashed severely for that. Come on. What about the president going to Dover Air Force Base, Wallace asks. You don't think that Barack Obama has profound respect for our soldiers? And there it is, the fair and balanced act we've all been waiting for.
It was a photo op. It was a photo op precisely because he's having big-time trouble on this whole Afghanistan dithering situation. Bush did this. Just
there are no
cameras.
I don't know that he ever went to Dover, Delaware.
Well, he went to see the families.
Yes, he certainly went to see the families.
But he didn't make photo ops out of it.
But the argument would be that it was political of Bush not to be seen with the coffins because he was trying to hide the cost of war from the American people.
Well, I have the benefit of knowing George Bush a little bit, and I've seen him cry talking about missions that he's ordered.
That was enough. Limbaugh's invocation of knowing Bush a little bit and Bush the crier to make Wallace cave utterly. And by the way, Chris, you did not need to hedge on that at all about Bush having not gone to Dover for the dignified transfer of remains, because he didn't, not ever. Returning to domestic policy, after giving Limbaugh the chance to repeat the charge that the Obama health care plan is the biggest snatch of freedom and liberty that has yet occurred in this country, Mr. Wallace asked Mr. Limbaugh to suggest an actual solution.
Take some of the unspent stimulus. We have 85% of the stimulus unspent. Take some of it. For $35 to $40 billion a year, you could insure those people. Not $2 trillion, not $1.4 trillion. If that's the objective, do it now.
And there you have it, an oddly revelatory answer to a throwaway question. Attention radio listeners, Orly Tate's Limbaugh wants the government to spend some of the stimulus money to buy health insurance for the uninsured. And socks for everybody who doesn't own any. But the crown jewel of this mutual admiration society came when Wallace asked Limbaugh about Glen Beck's success. Limbaugh has been asked this before and has given himself credit for being basically the father of all conservative media as we know it. He did that again this time, but with a bit more specificity.
Now look, Now look what's out. All of this conservative media, conservative talk radio, television, Fox News, the conservative blogosphere. I mean, in one way, I could, if I wanted to have my ego be as big as Obama's is, I could say, look what I created.
So Limbaugh includes Fox News in his list of conservative media between conservative talk radio and the conservative blogosphere. And how does Chris Fair and Balanced Wallace react? No defense of his channel's proclaimed neutrality, not even self-defense of his one-time status as an actual network-level journalist. Crickets. In fact, his next question begins, let's talk about you. And after asking Limbaugh about what he learned about himself in drug rehab, Wallace turned to the exciting topic of Limbaugh's salary. When Limbaugh seemed a bit put off, this came next.
And don't get me wrong,
right.
I think you're a great broadcaster. How can you possibly be worth that kind of money?
TMZ could use you. Oh, Rush, you're great, and I, Chris Wallace, am a real tough interviewer. And after all this, remember, we are reviewing these excerpts in sequence. Wallace then asked this.
Finally, some politics. You predict a possible bloodbath for Democrats in 2010.
Finally, some politics. Right, because everything that had preceded that was in no way political. It's just the musings of a what? Failed low-level baseball executive? Fired top 40 DJ? Well, let's do what Mr. Wallace did not do. Let's balance our analysis out to end with a good question and answer.
Clee, is it true that as of this broadcast, it's been confirmed that you've helped more people regain their health through internal cleansing than any other formulator over the last 12 months?
Well, according to the stats, as best we can tell, Dual Action Cleanse is the #1 selling cleansing product in America, knock on wood. So
here's a riddle. If you've got an empty room and you put Orly Tates Limbaugh and Chris Wallace in it, what do you have then? An empty room. That's countdown for this, the 2,377th day since the previous president declared mission accomplished in Iraq. I'm Keith Olbermann. Good night and good luck.